They lied to us about COVID, and it feels like they've lied to us about everything. But in politics, it seems like whoever tells the biggest lie wins. But for the first time in a long time, I heard a politician, a Democrat, Nancy Pelosi, tell the truth.
But they didn't know what they were talking about. We know we're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win.
I'll be dipped in shit. She told the truth. And it sent chills down my spine because I believe what she said. But make no mistake, free market capitalism is under attack, is at risk. And our banks, financial institutions, real estate markets, stock market, financial markets, and both big and small businesses are under attack. But don't take my word for it. I'm just some guy making videos on YouTube. I think it's noteworthy when a lifelong Democrat with the last name Kennedy, the guy who wrote the book on Fauci and exposed what he did with COVID, the boosters, and revealed how many people he basically murdered during the HIV crisis. You know, the guy who lost his father and uncle to assassins who were likely on the payroll of the powers that be, the they, them, and those, which may or may not have been the deep state that want power back right now. They never want to give it up. They always want to keep you down. They're always going to tell those lies to control you. But when Robert F. Kennedy Jr., when he's got the balls and the incentive and the need to disassociate himself with the Democratic Party completely and tells you why, I think we should probably listen. But the mainstream media doesn't want you to listen, and they, them, and those don't want you to listen. They don't want you to have freedom of speech, choice, or economic opportunities. Because we are all obviously too dumb and too incompetent to be able to do anything for ourselves. Until you're forced to feed on Kamala teat. But Robert F. Kennedy ain't got time for that. So let's hear what he has to say about the Democratic Party, Kamala Harris, and why he is endorsing Donald Trump.
Three great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. And now to throw my support to President Trump. The causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children. We were the party of labor, of the working class. The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money. When it abandoned democracy by canceling the primary to conceal the cognitive decline of the sitting president.
And that's not an opinion, it's simply a fact. And thank you, Elon Musk, for buying X and allowing us to have some freedom of speech. As I sit here waiting for this channel to be canceled, censored, or silenced.
But they didn't know what they were talking about. We know we're different from the presidential. We're very discreet, reptilian, cold-blooded. These are the races we have to win. Others are winning the whole country. 10.
Nancy Pelosi, for the first time ever, told the truth, which is that she and the rest of the Democratic Party, the elite, the they, them, and those, are reptilian, cold-blooded lizard people, which I'm also pretty sure Joe Rogan and Alex Jones identified quite a long time ago. But what's good for her and good for them is not good for you, because she can profit off insider trading and insider trade secrets all day long till she's blue in the face, outperforming and destroying the performance of Warren Buffett and every other money manager, institutional guru, every other hedge fund on planet Earth. Their results, their profits, their rate of return pales in comparison to this cold-blooded reptilian Nancy Pelosi, profiting off of inside information that if we did, we would end up in federal prison. But not Nancy, the Lizard Queen. And unfortunately, Kamala, who is out there stealing every one of Trump's ideas as far as economic policies go, unfortunately, not all of them. Because what she wants to do is very likely going to destroy the economy and have one of the greatest exits of wealth from our country in world history. People are going to vote with their feet if she gets elected. And that will be the end of our economy and our workforce and our employment opportunities for a long time if they get elected.
That's actually a great jump off point here, because the big news in our circles this week and on social media was, and some of the group chats, is that Harris has reportedly backed some of Biden's really out there tax plans, which include a proposed 25% wealth tax on people with over $100 million in assets. Important to note that this would be very hard to pass, because getting these tax increases, you'd have to get through Congress, et cetera. But let's just talk about what the proposal is, because it's out there. In Biden's 2025 tax plan, which the campaign has said to Semaphore, which is a niche publication, like a newsletter company, that, and I'll just give the quote, in a little notice portion of its Friday analysis of Harris's new economic plans, the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget wrote that her campaign said it endorsed the suite of revenue options included in President Joe's recent budget. And that CFRB report said, quote, the campaign has communicated to us that Vice President Harris continues to support all of the revenue-raising provisions in the president's 2025 budget. So there is continuity confirmed between Harris and Biden's plans. I'll just explain as simply as I can what this extreme plan says, and then I'll get Chamath your take on it. Biden's proposed 2025 tax plan includes the following: 25% unrealized cap gain tax on those with over 100 million in assets, 28% corporate tax rate. Right now it's 21. Trump had proposed a 15% rate, and quadrupling the stock buyback tax to 4%. That's when a company buys their own shares as opposed to putting it to work in the market. The stock buyback tax was created as Biden's Inflation Reduction Act of 2022. It's just 1% if you want to buy back your shares like Apple and some other companies do. But let's unpack the 25% unrealized cap gains, because that seems to be, the most, let's say, I don't want to say triggering, but the one that's triggered the most number of people. There's 5,000 people who fit into that category. What do you think, Chamath, of this proposal? Fair, unfair, crazy, socialist, anti-American?
It's less about fair or unfair, but I think that we are in the part of the cycle where enough people don't feel the positive aspects of capitalism that they want to push back against it. Mm-hmm. I just put a little image in here, Nick, if you want to just throw it up in the chat. But when you look from 1913 on to today, the reality is we've had many different forms of political philosophy that have governed the country. And what you can see is that tax rates have varied wildly at the federal level. And I think it's because that at certain times, there was the political will to go to extremes. And this may be a moment where we are going to explore the extremes that we had in the 40s and the 50s. And I think the reality is that if that does happen, you're going to see people behave in ways that weren't possible in the 40s and 50s. In the 40s and 50s, everybody was more geopolitically constrained. I don't think that that's the case anymore. And the way that people start companies, where they start companies, the flexibility of citizenship have changed really dramatically. So if it's the will of the people that they want to explore these mechanisms, I think other people will react in kind, and the die will be cast. So I don't have much of an opinion.
You're referring to removing. I think you're implying people might be able to move to other places and create companies there. Is that what I'm reading into
let's
it?
put it this way. We have a small microcosm of this going on within the 50 states, which is if you said California was the United States and Texas and Florida were, I'll make up two different countries, Malta and Dubai. Well, what happens when taxation goes beyond the pale? And what happens when budget deficits and spending go beyond the pale? And when the government plays too large of a hand in the economy? People leave with their feet. Companies leave. So we don't need to guess what's going to happen, because if it can happen between California and Texas, it probably stands to reason it can happen between the United States and the UAE, as an example.
Yeah. You already have a bunch of hedge fund managers moving over there, right, Shama? They have people are starting to buy apartments in
there's
Abu Dhabi.
There's golden visas in some great countries. Portugal has a golden visa. The UAE has a golden visa. Italy has a golden visa. The UK had this great program, what was called non-doms, for a long time. So the point is that all of these took advantage of countries that went to extremes, and they lost citizens as a result. And I suspect that if what the US voting population wants to do is explore that extreme, these policies will get enacted and then people will act in kind. The only thing that I would just, again, reinforce is, unlike when taxes went to 90% in the 40s and 50s, people are much, much more mobile than they were then.
And that was during World War II and the post-war era.
But we're already at war. But thankfully, people like you, people like me are spreading the message, we're sharing the truth, and we're committed to keeping America free and restoring and fighting for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.